Hey guys, John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter here, with another installment of our Transportation Fraud Prevention series. Here in part 4, we're going to be talking about having your identity stolen, ID theft, or basically your authority being stolen, and how to recover it. This is something that seems to happen a great deal these days, and it is a very painful experience for both freight brokers as well as carriers. So it is extremely important that you protect your authority and your identity as much as humanly possible. How to do it? We will cover after these words from our sponsor, AccuBid Pro.
What is your cost per mile? Have you been hitting your profit margins? Do you struggle with bidding in a way that is both profitable and competitive? Would it be worth it to have all of this information right in front of you? By calculating your cost per mile, AccuBid Pro helps you stay profitable in an industry still struggling to recover. In order to calculate your cost per mile, AccuBid Pro asks you questions about your business expenses. Our goal is to help you understand what you need to keep operating in order to keep up with the game and maintain your business. Enter your origin and destination, and we show you what you should bid based on your personal cost per mile in order to be profitable. Bid smarter, bid faster, bid better with AccuBid Pro.
So let's go ahead and get into the meat of this now. These different thefts take place for the purposes of impersonation. That's why these scammers want to get your info. They want to impersonate you because if they impersonate you, they get to hide their true identity while you're the one who gets in trouble for it. So for carriers, it's when a scammer obtains a copy of your authority certificate, your COI, W-9, etc., so that the scammer can book loads in your name. And the reason why they're doing that is because they're going to double broker it or they're going to steal the cargo and leave you, the impersonated carrier, holding the bag. For brokers, it's a lot the same thing, but instead of pulling your authority and all, they are gathering up your rate confirmation, your contract, and any other documentation they can get their hands on to convince a real carrier that they are you, the broker. For this, they will try to alter information on your format in order to redirect cargo and for purposes of cargo theft or even double brokering. So there is a lot going on and a lot riding on impersonation scams that exist out there. And shippers, you are not immune to this. Make sure you know who you're working with when it comes to the broker, and brokers, make sure you know who you're working with your shippers, because there are people out there impersonating shippers too. Again, this entire discussion is going to be carrier centric, but brokers and shippers, there is information in here that will be useful for you if you wind up in this situation. So carriers, when they are impersonating you, 9 times out of 10, it's for the purposes of denying you access to your own authority. And by that, they are pirating your authority right off of Safer. Not just taking your documents and booking loads using your documents, but they are basically preventing you from having control of your own authority. In order to do that, they select specific targets. They're looking at the age of your authority. They're looking at your safety score, inspection history, insurance history, etc., etc. There's a ton of public information available in Safer. And that public information makes it easy for the scammers to go in and pick and choose who it is they want to impersonate. And once they identify a victim, then they create a fake email address that is very similar to the real email address for the company, and then obtain a DOT PIN number for that company. How they do that, as I said in previous sections, is that DOT had a data breach in March of 2023, and DOT PIN numbers were compromised as part of that breach. So DOT PIN numbers are available on the dark web right now. They use that DOT PIN number and the fake email to file an MCS 150 report in Safer. What they do with that is that they change the email address and the phone number for the authority. so that they control the authority alone. If they are trying to book a load in your name and a broker is suspicious, one of the things the broker is going to do is go into Safer and call the phone number in Safer to verify that the person who's booking has the authority to book on behalf of that carrier. And of course, since the phone number is under the control of the scammer, they're going to say, yes, we are trying to book that load. Please send us the rate confirmation. Thank you very much for asking. And the broker feels perfectly fine now. So you can see how dangerous this is. Our recommendation, check your Safer listing every single day. It updates on the Safer platform every 24 hours. So you need to stay on top of your Safer information. So warning signs. Again, I said this is carrier centric. So when a broker is being impersonated, carrier, this is what you are looking for. One, the email domain does not match the broker's website. That is one of the easiest ways to do this. Now, if we're dealing with a small broker who doesn't have their own website, then all bets are off. You need to find another way to verify that information. Okay? Using a Gmail or email address, or even Yahoo, Hotmail, any other public domain by the scammer is an instant warning sign. 99.9% of the brokers out there do not use a public domain. If they are using a public domain, they haven't been a broker for very long, and they are probably not serious about being a broker, in which case, don't use them. They may actually be legitimate. Hell, they may be your best friend. Okay, that's fine. If you're comfortable with that, cool. But 99% of the time, you will not see a Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, or whatever email address for a freight broker. The rate confirmation has multiple fonts in it. We already know that is a potential problem. If the rate confirmation has spelling errors, I've seen scammers spell states wrong or use the wrong abbreviation for states. Use SR for street instead of ST. There are very stupid mistakes that these guys make, yet carriers fall for this stuff. So pay attention. Another big one is blind shipments. Now, again, blind shipments is a warning sign. It's not an absolute. But for blind shipments, you are basically utilizing those when the shipper does not want the receiver to know where the freight actually came from. It could very well be that the shipper is basically is a dealer of consigned freight. So you have cargo that's been scrapped. This dealer purchased the cargo and they sold the scrap cargo to somebody else. Well, they're not going to want the receiver to know where the cargo originally came from. And that is okay. That is legitimate. In those cases, a blind shipment is appropriate. But blind shipments are often used to hide the intentions of a scammer. Frankly, when I was a carrier and I was told that it was a blind shipment, I'm given the original BOL from the shipper. And the broker says, throw that BOL out. Here's a replacement BOL. I keep the original BOL. And if there's a discrepancy in delivery addresses, now I've got a lot of questions I'm going to be asking because I do not want to be a party to a cargo theft, which could very well be going on. Now, for brokers who are listening, this is a bone for you. Pay attention for carriers being impersonated. The email domain does not match the carrier's website. And yes, most carriers do not have websites. Yes, most carriers are using public domains. But as you've heard me say several times in this particular segment, carriers get a private domain. It will help you. It will ensure security for the future. So watch out for that. Using Gmail or Yahoo is always something that can be suspicious. So no wonder brokers are constantly trying to verify carriers left and right. You know, I would throw this out there for dispatchers too. Dispatchers, you should be using a unique email address, not a Gmail, not a Yahoo, especially if you want to represent yourself as a contract dispatcher. That way, people know you're a legitimate company. You are operating on behalf of another company. You need to advertise that you're operating utilizing a contract or a power of attorney on behalf of that other carrier. You know, there are ways to do it properly and not draw suspicion. If you see a recently updated MCS 150 date and safer, yes, brokers, that is a warning sign. It does not mean that something is in fact wrong, but it does warrant asking questions. Hey, why'd you recently update your 150? Oh, because the last time I did it was 23 months ago and I have to do it every 24 months. Oh, okay, cool, thanks. Another warning sign is RMIS change notifications. Guys, I love when I get a change notification from RMIS. As a dispatcher, I see these these contact change notifications come across anytime someone changes the dispatch note. My carriers get it anytime someone changes carrier information. None of the other services out there, MCP, Highway, etc., publish contact change notifications yet. So it is a good thing to see when that comes around. Do not ignore those emails. Verify them when you see those come into your inbox so that you know you're not being impersonated. In fact, that is how I caught one of my own carriers being impersonated, was through one of those change notifications. And this right here is one of those notices. Many thanks to Govinord Premium Holdings for allowing us to utilize this information. But as you can see here, a scammer at the same time changed the corporate sales, dispatch, and accounts payable contacts all to the name of the owner of the company. Well, the owner of the company operates 20 different businesses. Okay, well, Herv Dallencourt is the operations manager who makes all the day-to-day decisions. So his name was typically on everything. And of course, he did use a Gmail email address, and the scammer used a very similar Gmail email address to try to impersonate them. We caught this. This all happened within 12 hours of when the changes first took place. And we caught 22, I repeat, 22 instances of someone trying to use this carrier's authority to book loads in their name. We intercepted all 22 loads before they delivered to make sure that the right carrier got paid. Here's another warning sign in here. If you're looking in safer, look at that MCS 150 form date. That is very important. This happened to be noticed 10 days after the change took place. And when the carrier was reviewing the information, they noted that the phone number was changed as part of an MCS update. An MCS update they did not authorize. When your identity is stolen, when your MC number is stolen, scammers tend to book massive numbers of loads against your authority very, very quickly. You know, particularly if you're using like if you had access to Amazon Relay, or it could very well be a dispatch farm overseas who got your information, and then all of their laborers are booking loads under your MC number. The point is, it's going to be a ton of loads in a very short period of time. And as brokers realize they've been had, their first thought is to throw a freight guard or other negative review against you, Mr. Authority Owner, because you own the authority, and that's the authority that attempted to book the load, even though you may not have known it at the time. It is very difficult for a carrier who's had their authority stolen to be able to convince a broker who's angry that they got shafted in a situation like this. Because in most cases, a broker missed the signs that an improper agent was trying to book a load for that MC. Sometimes they will deflect that anger by throwing down a freight guard and ruining the victim carrier. We'll talk more about freight guards and reputation management in another video, but that is definitely a key takeaway in this type of situation. This is my recovery playbook. This is something that I typically charge carriers for on a consulting basis when they get involved in a situation where their identity has been stolen, because it is very lengthy, it is very time consuming, and there is a lot of steps that need to be done. So feel free to save this video, refer back to it however often you need to if you have an issue with your authority being stolen. First step is to file an MCSA 5889 with FMCSA. You need to do that the very first thing you do. And when you do that, it will automatically reset your DOT PIN number. An FMCSA investigator from their fraud group is going to then contact you and then verify that you are in fact the actual owner of the actual owner of the authority. My supervisor decided he wanted to partake in this episode. So once you've submitted, FMCSA will contact you and ask you a bunch of questions to verify that you are who you are. The next step, change that PIN number. They will mail out the PINs. They no longer email them. That's because of the data breach from back in 2023. So it will be mailed out to the address on the FMCSA forms. Once that comes in, hey, good to go. But once you first initiate that change, it's time to move on to the next step. Never stop moving in this case. It's too vital that you keep going. Contact all of the services that are out there that do onboarding. The big three: Highway, Assure Assist, and RMIS. They are the ones you absolutely positively need to contact. Highway, I've got their phone number listed on the screen here. Assure Assist, who owns My Carrier Portal, and now they've also integrated with Descartes. Their phone number is on here, as well as RMIS. And this is extremely important. Do not use callback features. Do not send emails. And do please get off my shoulder. Thank you very much, Jack. Whatever you do, stay on the phone however long it takes, because there's very specific information you need to be able to help recover your authority. When you finally get hold of a representative, you need to explain to them exactly what happened, what led you to believe that you are being impersonated, and what you have done to try to correct things. Because all of these systems, even though they all draw off of safer data, it typically only updates once every few days. So for a few days, your information is still compromised. So as long as you inform these guys, they can put a note in your account in your MC that your authority has been compromised, that additional verification steps are necessary before the broker books the load with you as a carrier. So questions you need to ask the representative on the other side of that phone: can you please make a note against the MC number to indicate that additional verification is required? Number two, what brokers have requested setups since the date of the theft? The date of the theft would be the date of the updated MCS 150. I would even go back a few days prior and find out every single broker who went to request documents through a setup process. And then you move on to step 4. Call every one of those brokers. I don't care if it's 100 brokers. You need to call each and every single one of them. Tell them exactly what happened and when it started. Ask them how many loads were booked. Work with them to try to help determine who the real carrier is, or if the load hasn't picked up yet, get them to cancel the load. Follow up with them again later to figure out the results of the loads that were in fact compromised. And stay in touch with each of the brokers, especially until the situation has been resolved. A broker is going to think so much more highly of a carrier that approaches them and tells them, my authority's been stolen. We are told by my carrier portal that you pulled a setup on us a couple of days ago. Has that load picked up yet? When is it supposed to deliver? Are you in contact with the driver? Because the driver is not us. You need to find out who the real driver is. Whatever you do, do not pay until you figure out who the real carrier is. So brokers, be grateful that a carrier is coming to you and giving you this information because they are saving your butt. I'll be perfectly honest, and to be perfectly frank here, if a scammer gets a hold of a cargo because they impersonated a carrier, the broker is legally at fault. The broker has all the tools necessary to vet whoever it is on that phone. And if you fail to vet the person on the phone, your brokerage will suffer the consequences by either paying twice for the load or being obligated to deal with claims if the cargo gets stolen. So do your homework, broker. If that means you got to spend an extra 2 minutes verifying something, spend that 2 minutes because it's a lot better than losing $100,000 off of your bottom line to pay your shipper for cargo that got stolen. Forgive me for sounding preachy there, but that's all I got to say on that. Step 5 is issue a fraud alert via social media and other internet resources. If you have your own website, put a note out on the homepage of your website. Put a note out in the signature block of your email addresses. Contact Facebook trucker and broker groups and get your MC out there. Contact Reddit, the subs, truckers and freight brokers. There are so many different ways. Pretty much any place or any platform where you as a carrier have an internet presence, get the word out. The sooner you get the word out, the sooner brokers are going to start paying attention that, hey, your MC number's been compromised. We need to make sure we call you to verify something if someone tries to book in your name. It will save you a lot of headaches. I would also reach out to somebody who has carrier 411 access. Now, granted, the double broker bounty hunter here does not have carrier 411 access. We do not, we're not allowed to have access. However, we do have proxies who can check carrier 411 for us to make sure you don't have any outstanding freight guards. Because if you do, then we need to make sure we get those freight guards removed. We need to make sure the brokers know that you've been impersonated, provide all the steps that you have accomplished to try to recover your authority, and usually they'll believe you and pull that freight guard back down. But there are some out there who do victim blame and say that if someone was able to impersonate you, it has to be your fault and we'll keep the freight guard up. In that case, call an attorney, because you've got every right in the world to sue that broker. If you really need assistance in dealing with a freight guard from this type of situation, VTS can help, and we do it on a consulting basis. Normally when we help people deal with freight guards, there's a freight guard removal fee. In this particular situation, we do it on a consulting basis using our consulting rates because there's usually more than one that has to be dealt with, and there's a lot of phone calls and emails and all that need to be made in order to rectify the situation. That puts us in a position to be able to help you continuously until your situation is resolved. Forgive the shameless plug, but let's face it, carriers don't have a lot of time to do this stuff. But it is critical that it gets done. However you do it, whether you hire somebody to do it for you or you do it yourself, get it done. That's the important part. Step 6, figure out why you were targeted in the first place and make sure that you are not going to be subject to a repeat situation. In many cases, it is because you are using a public email domain. Change that email to a private domain. Once you do that, it is much more difficult for a scammer to steal your authority fresh off of Safer. So keep that in mind. Brokers, you have a lot of the same steps in recovery that the carriers do. Same MCSA forms, same contacts that you need to make. You probably don't have to sit there and call a bunch of other brokers and call the highways and MCPs of the world, but you definitely need to work to protect yourself. If you ever wind up in a situation where you are being scammed, you're being impersonated, or you're hauling a double brokered load, do not hesitate. Time is of the essence. Contact us at VTS, home of the double broker bounty hunter, myself, Jay Cantera at vigilanttransport.com, or visit our website. Remember, this is an emergency situation, so do not hesitate to make that call immediately so that we can help you before you deliver that load. Once you deliver that load, it becomes so much harder to help you because the scammer has most likely already been paid. With that being said, please remember, Stop the Scam. Our main podcast is live every Monday, 5 p.m. Central Time. Check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and X, formerly Twitter. And whatever you do, don't let scammers take you for a ride. Catch you next time.